just starting the project of building the tiny house. It's pretty exciting. Behind me here you can see a flatbed trailer. This trailer was designed specifically to build a tiny house on top. We're just starting the process of starting the flooring. And we're going to be insulating and the floor. And basically, right now on this section there's going to be the bathroom section here, and everything has to be laid out because we're going to do all the plumbing and the flooring. And the reason is because up in this region area here, it's a little bit colder than, let's say, Victoria or anywhere on the coast. So we want to be able to do the plumbing so it won't freeze inside the wall. So eventually what would happen is that it will be built, it will be put into an insulated floor with the skirting that's also insulated once it's parked in place, and then that way your plumbing won't freeze. And the idea is to plumb it like you would a regular house, but also that you can still drive away with unhooking the bottom traps and everything. But yeah, that's the process here. And here I have the last piece of plywood that's going to go in, and that is a pressure treated plywood that's going on the bottom. And then the next step would be insulation, and the next step would be 3/4 tongue and groove, and that will be the floor. And there you have that detail there. So it's a lot of fun. All right, over and out. Hey, this is Robert Johnson here at beautiful Esk'et. I'm here standing at the building site of the tiny home, and here we're at the stage of starting to fasten in our floor joists and insulate the flooring. So basically what you see here along the perimeter of the tiny house trailer, we're starting to bolt in all the 2x6, and basically once everything is bolted on and you have the tongue and groove 3/4 subfloor that goes down, it basically overlaps all the way to pretty much the outside of the frame of the tiny house trailer. Basically what that does is that once the wall plates go on right at this edge, they'll be fastened through the steel plus attached to the plywood, which is screwed down to the joists, and they're all locked in together, which makes a real sturdy wood to steel connection. And right now we're at the process. Basically right here is what you see is white rigid insulation. This stuff is 3/4 thick. It has a small R value. I think it's like 4. It's very small. But the purpose of it is that there's a couple of different ways of doing insulation. You can do rigid insulation depending on what you want. It's going to be twice as much. So there's other ways to do it if you have a tight budget. Basically what we're doing was we lined the bottom that you can see where the white rigid insulation is. We lined the bottom with 1/2-inch pressure treated plywood, and that basically gives you more of a sturdy, water resistant underneath. Because it's a tiny house and the purpose of it is parking it and moving it every once in a while if you need to, it doesn't need to have a real tight water connection, because it's not going to be traveling down the road all the time where the splash underneath the wheels is going to be soaking up underneath. And whatever moisture that does hit up underneath, basically instead of it soaking up the batt insulation, if it does get past the half-inch pressure treated ply, it will be touching this rigid insulation. And on top of that rigid insulation, there will be batt insulation. The batt insulation in this 2x6 floor joist is R20. And basically if you do rigid insulation, the blue stuff, to fit rigid insulation all the way up to 5.5 inches, that will give you a 25 R value. Whereas doing batt insulation is 20 R value. There's not that much of a difference. depending on where you are building, if you're going to be building up coast, let's say Victoria or Vancouver area in BC, it's a little bit warmer. 2x6 walls is all that you need for to get the proper R value. Now if you're up north or somewhere like where we are in Williams Lake where it is colder, the 2x6 R20 is acceptable, but what we're going to do that's even better is once this tiny house is in place, it is going to be skirted, that will be insulated, so there will be a warm space underneath the tiny house trailer itself, which allows us to do all our plumbing in the floor and underneath the floor. So basically what that does is that gives us the freedom to do 2x4 walls so that we can keep it as light as possible. And when you do 2x4 walls, to get plumbing in there, and let's say it hits below 40 or 30 or 20 even, all your water and your plumbing's gonna freeze. So when that's one thing you have to think about, is when you're doing the plumbing installation, think about, is this trailer going to be in a cold area if it drops below 0? And if it is, how am I going to insulate the plumbing? So the way that we're doing it, we're going to get the proper insulated value on all the plumbing, and for us that's going to be great. So basically what you see here now is we have to do all the plumbing layouts now before the walls and everything gets done. The reason is because you're building on a steel platform, and if there's any steel structures or beams in the way, you can't move that. So you have to be able to work around it. So if you put a shower in a place where there's a steel beam and you can't move it, then you're really stuck. You have to figure out what you want to do with the shower. So all that stuff has to be pre-planned and ready to go. So here we got a handsome young man working with me. Came all the way from Duncan. Beautiful place. He can't hear me right now because he has hearing muffs, but plus he also has a hard time hearing. Yeah, he didn't hear me say that, so that's good. Anyways, yeah, so we're having a lovely time. Hey there, hey Don.
Fooling around, are you?
I'm working. I'm working. Don's, I worked with him a lot in Victoria, and he's, now that we're here on native time, it's a lot more different. You know, things are much more enjoyable when you get to enjoy the scenery as you're working. See the scenery? Isn't that beautiful? It's great. You know what? There's this scenery too, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It's all about how you look at life and how you enjoy it. Anyway, here we go. It's a lovely day. Woo!